Starting the tour here, I've got the 1963 and 1964 Aurora Sterling Moss. And that's back when they called them model racing sets, a set of slot cars. This is the old style track. The slot cars, when it comes to being an art form, this is the pinnacle of the art form. And when I say art form, it's because the guys that that were into these and raced them on a regular basis, just a ridiculous amount of work went into the cars, the track. And these guys had these cars down to a science just as much as real race cars are down to a science. This is the old style track. Unfortunately, I can't put it together because over the years I think I've lost the screws. These actually have, if you see the daylight coming through the hole there, those are the screws that you screwed the two ends together with on this style. The old transformers, the old controllers, where instead of just plugging them in, you actually had to take the bare wire there and hook them up to your terminals here. The old lap counters inside the track itself. Even the box art was really cool. Of course, 64 Mustang, the newest and most awesomest thing to ever hit the planet. So 63, of course, they had a whole bunch of cars on the cover. You see the Thunderbird there, the Riviera, the Jaguar, the Vet, and 64 hit, and that's all they cared about was the Mustangs. We're on to the 63 set here. Yep, that's how you, that was your throttle control on these. Different barrels so you could adjust the height of the track. Put elevation changes into it, or banking. I'm really surprised the tires are still on that one. Most of the ones I've got, the tires are pretty well junk on because they've been sitting for so long. They're so old. So we'll talk about the cars here in a minute. This track here is dated 1974. This was right before the Aurora AFX age. What's really cool is the Montgomery Ward spot on the box. It's up here as well. This one I do know is minus some parts, but and I really would have liked to put this one together, but I don't know if you can see. The track is pretty rusty, so it needs a file drug over it to straighten it out so it would work. And these are a little easier because these are the snap end. You know, you're talking about 10 years later. Look at that kid's hair. These were cool because obviously the cars would change lanes. You could, so let's say we set up this bank corner here, and if you were on the outside on these contacts, you could slow the car down. Gravity would pull it down to this track where it would catch power again and go. And this is when they came obviously a lot more track, because as you can see the difference in the size of the boxes. They just don't sell anything this cool anymore. I mean, they just don't do it. I mean, slot car tracks now, that's just basically a figure eight with an extra piece or two. Not much imagination to it. And it's certainly nothing like that. 29 feet of track. That's crazy. And moving on now to the Tyco track. This particular track, I believe, is early 90s. Of course, you know, you never get anything like this now because everyone cries, "Oh, it's a choking hazard for children." That's why kids nowadays don't care about detail in anything. And now we'll talk about the cars a little bit. Aurora was pretty much, there were some other companies that did some slot cars, but Aurora was pretty much the biggest name on the block when it came to the slot cars. And we'll take a look here at one of the chassis. Phone will focus. Of course, you're going to have your electric motor here. And for those of you who don't know, what it is the metal rails that you see here on the track. That's what these metal tabs connect to. That conducts the electricity to run the electric motor. The electric motor spins, turns a couple of gears, and goes back and turns rear tires. Now, that is an Aurora car. Real quick here, let's see if I can get the body off of one of the Tyco cars. Now, Tyco pretty well killed Aurora. Anyway, once you set it next to an Aurora car, you can see some major differences. The motor is a completely different design. The chassis aren't too different. And that's actually a drag. Get it next to a regular sized. See, there wasn't too much in a Tyco that you could switch out, you know, to do any different. You might be able to switch that rear pinion if you felt like, you know, working on them for too long and needing glasses for the rest of your life. But in the Auroras, the guys would change the magnets out to how well they'd stick to the track, because it's got magnets in the bottom of it that help it stick to the track. They change out these gears to get different gear ratios to the back tires. They actually had different tire sizes, you know, low profile and high profile for, you know, this reason or that. It was really cool too, and I'm going to go off on this rant right now about hobby shops. When I first started exploring hobby shops, the slot cars were kind of on the way out, but they still carried a lot of the parts for them, and that was really cool because you walk in like behind the counter. Let's just say like this was the counter, and up hanging up here on the wall would be these little baggies on a pegboard, and it had all sorts of different parts you could buy to make these cars, you know, go faster and do different things. Mainly go faster, but find, you know, people that are still doing it. But for the most part, it's a lost art form, and I haven't seen any kids that my kids didn't even know what slot cars were. To tell you the generation gap there, my kids didn't even know what a slot car was. See the different bodies, and the bodies, of course, all mostly interchangeable to the chassis. The only ones that are about the same as like these trucks. And down here, I guess I just picked this up at a garage sale actually, so I think it was a mixed bag of stuff. But I guess they actually hauled around these trailers on the track, because on the bottom of the trailers there's some magnets by the wheels to keep the trailers on there. So I guess the whole idea would be to go around the track as fast as you could without dumping your trailer. They've had all sorts of gimmicks through the years. They've had glow-in-the-dark track, which was, oh, that was epic. In the 80s, they had the glow-in-the-dark track. They even had a track where it would come down here, it would turn, and you could mount it to the wall, and it would go up, I don't know, probably about 2 foot, make a corner, and then come back down and connect back with your track. That's something Aurora never had. It was overall better design, and it just kind of killed off Aurora, but that was kind of sad because, as you can see, Aurora was very, realism based. Actual cars. I mean, most of your Tycos, the bodies were actual cars and everything, but the detail in those tracks were just silly. And I have seen guys have these things set up like a model railroad. I mean, it's a complete diorama. These are all 1/64th scale or HO gauge, which this is about 1/64th scale. The track, this newer style track too, snapped together. It was pretty easy to get apart. You can see the Aurora, the detail on those things. It was just amazing. The Tyco cars didn't look bad. They just didn't quite have the detail usually. But if you were into hot rodding these out, I'm sure you're probably into building model cars too. So you had a lot of paint and detail brushes sitting around to paint on headlights and taillights and door jambs and this, that, and everything. These things were, kids, I don't care what kid, what generation of kids, most kids don't have a whole lot of patience, so, you really rush together and putting this thing together. And like me, I had to put all my toys away at night. So if I set the track up, during the day, I'd have to knock it back down at night and put it away. And I wasn't allowed to set any of my toys out overnight. And unfortunately, none of these tracks are survivors from when I was a kid. These didn't belong to me when I was a kid. My track actually ended up wearing out and breaking up just because I had to put it away every night. But it was cool because once you got them together and you had a friend over, you could do this. And forgive me, because the dog's probably going to go crazy. He loves to chase these things. It's just part of the fun too. Household pet. And you could race your slot cars. Get down. I told you my dog goes crazy. Hey! And I'm including in this too because the set, I know it was in another video collection, but I have another set that really was the predecessor to slot cars. This is a 63, 64 motorific torture track. There was two of them. This was the big one. A lot of the parts in here have never even been out of the box. I lucked out and found this thing at an auction house probably about a decade ago for 12 bucks. Now the cars are a little different because instead of being 1/64th scale, they're 1/32nd scale. And they were battery powered. You put two AA batteries in here, and they had a fin here that would fit into the slot of the track, and they would drive around on battery power instead of electricity.